So I'm a big wildlife guy, so I have a hard time walking past a tracking substrate where I can see what's been here. And 50, 75-pound bear, fairly small. A whole bunch of coyote tracks, deer tracks, some pig tracks. My grandfather was an avid outdoorsman, and I was just raised out in the woods. I always had this affinity for wildlife and knowing what was there. My name is Ryan Williamson. I've been here for about 5 years. I was born and raised very local to the park, so I've been in and around this park the majority of my life. We're here in the park, we have a fairly small wildlife staff. We have the ability to work with multiple different species. I could be called to go deal with a bear, could be called to go deal with a snake, could be called to go deal with a pig, could be called to deal with an elk problem. I really appreciate having the ability to branch out and to get my hands on all of that. Your day can really turn around in like a second. You can get a hit on the radio and...
302.
This is probably about bears.
Are there any VP units that are available to park this boat jam out here in front of Twin Creeks?
I'll be there.
Today, Ryan has his hands full. Great Smoky Mountain National Park is home to the densest population of black bear in the country. And with winter hibernation just weeks away, they have only one thing on their mind: food.
Anytime you see there's a bear somewhere, there's gonna be a huge bear jam, there's gonna be a lot of traffic. Keep moving for me, guys. So a big part of the day is just keeping traffic moving and dealing with bears that are in close proximity to the road. Yeah, hey guys, let's back up out of the woods for me, please. That bear is way, way close. Bear jam, sometimes they're 4 or 5 miles long. I don't mind you staying, just get off the road for me, please.
Few things around here pack as many calories as acorns. These nutritious seeds tend to roll downhill, collecting in piles near roads and drawing the bears dangerously close to park visitors and their vehicles.
A lot of white oak trees here, and that's why those bears are here. They're in hyperphagia right now, consuming as many calories in a day as they possibly can.
With more than 12 million visitors each year and 1,500 resident black bears, keeping both animal and human safe is a full-time job.
We have a 50-yard rule here in the park, and some people don't respect that. They kind of lose their mind a little bit when they see the bears, so we're here to try to enforce that. If you would, just stay right here on the outskirts of this. He's pretty close. I've seen him open doors in the middle of the road, especially if you get people that feed them out the car window. Most people feel the need to like, oh, it's hungry. Absolutely, the bear is hungry. That's what bears are. Their only job is to find food. And that starts the bear down this road called food conditioning. Food conditioned behavior is where the bear all of a sudden sees people and is like, hey, I know that person has food. And if I approach them, they may throw food to me. People forget black bears are predators, and they can and will and do kill people for food. So it's easy for them to get out of hand, and potentially people get injured, potentially the bear gets injured. So my job as a wildlife technician here in the park is keep bears wild. All right, guys, everybody back up across the other side of the road for me. And reduce, if not eliminate, food conditioned behavior. Walk down here and see if he pops up again. Hey, slid over the side of the hill. Abracadabra, he's gone. I'll be clear of that bear jam.
That's clear, 1258.
Great Smoky Mountain National Park is the most visited national park in the United States. Established in 1934, it encompasses more than 500,000 acres of land on the border of Tennessee and North Carolina. 95% of the park is covered in forest. But on a clear day, visitors can see up to 100 miles from its highest peaks. The park is home to some 19,000 species, including 200 species of birds, 50 species of fish, and lungless salamanders that breathe through their skin. It's estimated that an additional 100,000 undocumented species might also call the park home. But after black bears, there's one park resident whose presence can't be missed.
Get over the fence!
For most of the year, the elk that live in here are peaceful. But every autumn during the rutting season, everything changes.
We've got a really high bull population here, and so there's no shortage of fighting or action. They can only think about two things. One, fighting other bulls, and two, chasing the females around.
Weighing up to 1,100 pounds and armed with sharp antlers that can punch a hole through a car door, these massive creatures pose a threat, not just to other bulls, but also to park visitors. And to park rangers like Joe Yarkovich.
This is the bull that rammed the Dodge Caravan yesterday. Let me know if he gets too close to us. Okay. I don't like having my back to the bulls during this time of year. I do the research and management on the elk herd, and part of that is during this time of year, during the fall rut, just keep some degree of separation between those elk and humans. September and October, we get a flood of visitors. The elk are really ramped up for the rut. The bulls are full of testosterone. They don't know how to back down from a challenge. So we spend a lot of time trying to move the animals away from developed areas.
Elk are massive mammals and dangerous to manage. But they're also a welcome sight for these rangers.
Elk were native and abundant through most of North America up until the 1790s. That's when European settlement pushed into this area. And the last known elk was killed in East Tennessee in the early 1800s. We introduced elk here to the Smoky Mountain National Park starting in 2001. From there, the herd has grown into about 200 today that's spread out through all of western North Carolina.
And today, those elk don't feel much like backing down.
So there's a road right next to us. And the elk have slowly been feeding this way, so we're just going to push them back a little bit away from the road and away from the people. This time of year, we find that the bulls don't respond really well to any pressure from us, but paintball guns are a good way to keep the bulls at bay or to move the females when we need to. So we usually take a paintball gun with clear paintballs just to kick them back a little bit. You can see they don't respond really well to anything right now. So if we control where the cows go, he's just going to follow them.
Joe convinces most of the elk to start moving away from visitors. But the bull elk remains unconvinced.
So we're just taking a look around to see if we need to close the area down or move elk out of the area.
Facing off against a bull like this is a deadly gamble. It can suddenly turn around and charge at speeds of up to 40 miles an hour. And Joe's right in his path.
If he comes this way, find a tree.
On the south side of the park, Ranger Joe Yarkovich is trying to move a 900-pound bull elk away from a crowded hiking trail. But this lone bull isn't ready to leave just yet.
We'll keep some cover. If he comes this way, find a tree. They're most likely to charge when your back is to them, so keep an eye over your shoulder. Obviously, a little paintball is not going to stop that thing from charging us if he wants to, so I wouldn't put too much faith in it. And I'm not sure where he's trying to go. You've got people kind of running down the river there to try and get in front of him and get the pictures. If that bull comes down here, you guys are going to want to find a tree to get behind. Honestly, we had one of them ram a minivan yesterday. They're pretty fired up.
Ranger Joe Yarkovich has given the warning. The next move is up to the bull elk.
So here comes the shot that all the photographers were hoping to get.
The elk finally crosses the river, and the photographers get their shot. Luckily, it heads deeper into the forest, away from trails, roads, and most importantly, people.
That's given us a good degree of separation between visitors. And that bull that we were watching probably take a break for a little bit or find some other cows that are off that direction. So now we'll leave this spot. It's kind of cleared up. You know, everything looks good here for right now. Promise I wasn't trying to ruin your shot.
To the Cherokee, the Smoky Mountains is a sacred place. Shakanohe, the land of blue smoke. Millions of trees and bushes here take in carbon dioxide and give off oxygen, but they also exhale something called volatile organic compounds, or VOC. The high concentration of VOCs turn to vapor, which creates a fog that gives the mountains their signature smoky look. But sometimes, where there's smoke, there's fire.
700-416.
On an average basis in this park, we average around 20 wildfires a year. Wildfires seem to be a bigger problem today than, say, 10 years ago, and that includes the national parks.
The wind's a little shifty.
But today's fire isn't a wildfire, it's man-made.
Today we're in Cades Cove, which is a very popular part of Great Smoky Mountains National Park. It's a 12-mile auto loop with lots of opportunities to view wildlife. A lot of history here, and today we're going to be doing a prescribed fire as part of the field restoration project.
Probably gonna want to stop traffic just on the other side of that bridge.
You ready? Ready in about 5 minutes.
Okay, that's perfect.
The park has assembled a team to help avoid a catastrophe from happening. Again.
2016 was a historic fire year for Great Smoky Mountains National Park. The Southeast was under a big drought. It's the biggest fire that I've had to deal with in Great Smoky Mountains National Park.
This is really bad.
Wildfires don't just ravage western states. They also pose a serious threat here in the Smoky Mountains.
We are now evacuating. Hit the gas! Hit the gas!
The 2016 Inferno was the largest series of wildfires to hit the Great Smoky Mountain National Park in a century. They raged for over a week, tearing through eastern Tennessee, leaving historic destruction in their wake.
Oh my God. I've never seen anything this bad.
Over 11,000 acres of the park burned. Wild animals perished, and 14 human lives were lost.
Please, Lord, let us get off this mountain.
When the smoke finally cleared, park officials re-examined their approach to fire prevention.
110, copy, direct.
So 2016 being an historic fire year for Great Smoky Mountains National Park, this speaks to what we're trying to do today, to address some of those problems that contributed to those historic fires. For decades, we've excluded fire from the landscape. Today, we realize that's not always the best idea. Prescribed burns reduce the hazardous fuels. If we did get a wildfire in an area we've burned, the fire intensity of the wildfire is going to be much less.
By removing dead underbrush, the lifeblood of wildfires, the park hopes to avoid another catastrophe like 2016. But there are other benefits too.
The other reason is the ecological and the wildlife benefits. It has huge advantages for all sorts of wildlife, from bear, deer, turkey, butterflies, etc. This increases their forage, stimulates grasses, and we're reintroducing an entire ecological process back into the ecosystem. It's how Mother Nature intended it.
What we're going to be burning is up here in this northwest corner of Cades Cove.
The goal is to burn a 300-acre section of land that's ripe for a wildfire. To keep the fire from burning out of control, the team will light a series of smaller fires along the perimeter and allow it to spread within. The aim is to let the fire consume the fuels and burn itself out. But weather and fire can make for an unpredictable and deadly combination.
Don't get complacent. Know exactly where you are. Follow the direction of your supervisors.
With our burn plan, we're always what-ifing. Worst case scenarios.
Just be heads up for wind shifts, especially once we put some fire down.
If we have an escape fire at this part of the burn, how we're going to react to that.
When there's a wind shift, things will happen very quickly. And so just be on your A game.
You have a solid plan. Now the plan's in your hands to execute, so go forth and do well. Thank y'all.
The team goes to work, using a combination of gasoline and diesel, poured from drip torches, to ignite fires along the perimeter of the burn area. Dead leaves and other organic fuels on the ground quickly ignite, and the flames start to spread. As the fire grows, the team's attention turns to containment.
They're making sure that the fire doesn't cross the line. We have to control the fire and keep it contained in the burn area.
But with the flames rising and the winds growing stronger, the team must finish the burn before it spreads beyond the perimeter and out of their control.
We need to move faster.
In Great Smoky Mountain National Park, a controlled burn is underway.
You can put some rounds in? Good.
Get the gun out. It's called the Berry pistol.
The team prepares to fire remote ignition flares into some otherwise unreachable patches of grass to speed up the process.
All right. And don't hit a tree with these because these things like to bounce and they'll come back at you. Just fill in those pockets that we couldn't fill in with the torch. You're gonna cock it back. You're gonna yell firing 3 times real loud.
Firing, firing, firing!
There you go.
With the entire area now ablaze, the team watches the perimeter closely.
And so at this point, once the edges are secure, then we're just allow the fire to burn out through the rest of the unit.
The mission is a success. And these 300 acres are safe. Beyond the southern border of Great Smoky Mountain National Park lies 56,000 acres of land known as the Qualla Boundary. This sacred region is autonomous land belonging to the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians.
I supervise all of the projects related to wildlife with the Eastern Band of the Cherokee Indians. There's a lot of differences between us and the national park as far as management goes. On tribal lands, people live here. So we want to see how people and the organisms can coexist, because that's a traditional value, that's a traditional perspective from the Cherokee. We work with all kinds of animals. One day we might be working with flying squirrels, but that same day we get a call about a problem elk in town. We never know what we're going to run into.
One species undoubtedly roaming this area, black bears.
What about up in here? There's a lot of action in here. This does look good. We'll put a camera trap right there.
Today, Caleb is conducting a study to find if these bears are getting close to human population.
There's a lot of animals that will move back and forth between the park and Cherokee lands. Because we're so close to residential areas, we really don't want bears to be a problem for people. But bears in the national park behave entirely different than bears on tribal land. In the national park, a lot of people can get pretty close to them. On tribal land, it's really rare to even see one. We have quite a bit of hunting around here, and there's a lot of dogs used in hunting for a variety of hunting methods. And bears are afraid of dogs, so they run away.
But are they staying away? That's what Caleb hopes to find out.
So we have to come up with some novel ways, some interesting ways to sample them. These hair snares are our indirect way of studying bear activity.
The snare is a simple web of barbed wire surrounding a piece of bait, sharp enough to snag hair off the back of any bear who passes through, but not sharp enough to injure it. The bait? A can of sardines.
I like that tree right there, don't you? Yeah. We'll take the hair, give it to a geneticist, and what they're going to do is tell us the identity of that bear. We'll see if the same one's coming back, if they're related to other bears in our area. If they're related to bears in the national park, we can determine bear presence, potentially bear population sizes.
This project will provide crucial information about any bears and any other species that may be in this area.
All right, done.
In a few weeks, Caleb will return and hopefully get some answers. Each year, nearly a dozen bears are killed by speeding vehicles in the park, often leaving behind orphaned cubs. Cubs without a mother are more likely to starve.
We get orphan bears, and we try not to be heavy-handed when it comes to managing bear populations. We prefer the natural order of things, but if mother's death is caused by humans, then we feel obligated to step in.
4 months ago, the Rangers had to do just that.
We had a female with cubs, and unfortunately, she was found deceased. She had 3 healthy cubs inside the den, and we were able to take them to a rehab facility where they're able to raise them without human imprintation on them so they can be released back into the wild. Try not to break any sticks.
Those 3 orphaned bears will soon be ready to re-enter the wild. So Ryan is inspecting the area where they'll be released.
So this is a pretty typical location. It's pretty open. A lot of white oak trees here. And you can audibly hear acorns falling.
And that's a good sound. Acorns will provide the calories the cubs need to survive the winter, but only if they find a safe place to hibernate.
It's kind of a myth that bears den in caves. Bears will den up in tree cavities, somewhere between 30 to 50 feet in the air. Just a little cavity, they get in there and hibernate. It's probably easier to go up this way. This is a ground den, so it's actually a stump that a tree had fallen and it kind of raised up. This is the cavity. It's probably 4 feet, and it's just big enough for probably a 200-pound bear to get in and out of. Here in the Smokies, our female bears use that denning to give birth. A newborn cub is typically about 8 ounces and hairless, just a little pink bear. And litters of 1 to 3 is really common. Earlier in the year, there was another orphan cub, and I had a female bear in the park that had 2 other cubs in the den. So we had a rare opportunity to foster it to another female. And I set it in front of the den entrance, and her natural instinct is to pacify it from crying. So she smelled it, grabbed it, and pulled it in with her other cubs.
With plenty of food and shelter, Ranger Ryan decides that this is a perfect spot to release the cubs. But he's not the only one who likes this neck of the woods. Park Ranger Ryan Williamson is looking for the perfect location to release 3 orphaned bear cubs.
That's probably the red oak acorn.
With plenty of food and shelter, he thinks he's found the spot. Now something has found him.
That bear's probably about a 200-pound, probably a male. Just a wild bear doing wild things.
This bear is a welcome sight. If it can live here, so can the orphan bears.
We better motor on because I'd say that bear is right down there. Well, at least you got to see a bear.
Great Smoky Mountain National Park is one of the most biodiverse regions in the country. No other area of equal size in the United States can match its amazing natural diversity. And that diversity makes it a destination not only for tourists, but for researchers too.
We are one of the premier research parks in the National Park Service, right up there with Yellowstone and Everglades National Parks. We have research that covers basic inventory of the biodiversity here, rainfalls in a mountainous landscape, the age of trees and how they may be growing faster or slower under different conditions. We have all sorts of research. We have about 150 different active research permits right now.
And one of those research projects isn't about what visitors see here in the park. It's about what they hear.
Over 90% of the visiting public has identified sound, natural sounds, as being an important part of coming to a national park. And one of the things that the national park is supposed to protect. We usually would do our monitoring in backcountry areas away from roads and get an idea of, can people easily achieve an escape from motor noises, from airplane noises, from radios, from whatever, and just listen to the sound of the rushing streams, or birds, rainfall, just the natural things that happen out in the woods. but some of our roads go through areas that kind of amplify and echo sounds. Even if you hike up to the top of Mount LeConte, there are times where you can hear road noises. And that's not really what people have hiked all the way up there to encounter. We're also working to get a better handle of what the conditions are that are making noises go into the backcountry and try to see if there are ways that we can mitigate that. Help people to still visit the park and experience it because they're coming here by car or motorcycle or whatever, but also to be able to escape from the roads and hear quiet.
But it's not just visitor experience researchers are trying to enhance.
If there's a lot of non-natural sound, it can interfere with an animal's hunting. It can interfere with their ability to communicate. Birds singing to advertise for mates or to defend territories. It can get animals anxious and change their behavior. All of that is not what a national park's for. We're trying to provide a refuge where animals can behave naturally and that people can watch them being natural animals.
On Cherokee land, biologist Caleb Hickman checks the progress of his bear snare.
I'm gonna take that right side, and I'll take the left. Okay.
He's concerned bears from Great Smoky Mountains National Park may have made their way into this adjacent residential area.
You know, we know they're getting into trash cans and bird feeders and all kinds of stuff just over the mountains in Tennessee. But we don't have that many issues here. Question is why? So we're inspecting this for hair that's plucked from a bear's back or belly when they cross over this barbed wire. Did you find some?
No.
Oh, I was like, oh.
Just leave. I think we're a strikeout on this one.
Yeah. Go ahead and boot up this computer, though.
With the hair snare coming up empty, Caleb turns to the motion-activated camera.
Wow, how about that? 1,218 items. So for 4 weeks, it's not too bad. There's something in there. Oh, wow.
Biologist Caleb Hickman is checking to see if bears are getting too close to a residential area adjacent to the park.
We really don't want bears to be a problem for people. I'm gonna go ahead and check the camera. Wow. There's something in there. Raccoon. There's a raccoon in here. Oh. Well, look, a coyote, yep. And fox, both coming through here. Yeah. Good deal. I mean, there's plenty of wildlife, and they're definitely interested in the bait.
No bear activity around the snare means there are almost certainly no bears in the area.
Bears have a greater sense of smell than any other thing in the woods here. So they're gonna come over and check this out. Unless there's something to prevent them from doing that. There's something in there. Wow. There's been a dog, several dogs. So that's interesting because we know dogs can run bears away from places, and you can include, you know, these domestic dogs into the equation and say, well, wherever they're occurring, maybe bears aren't. Wow. A 0 is a good number sometimes because, you know, the house is right down below. I've been through them all, so. We're on the 4th week now. It's the end of the season, and we're gonna wrap this up. This is the last trap for this year. You ready?
All right, pull it forward a little bit. So we're getting ready to release 3 bears back into the wild. This guy, you can see his nose sticking out right there. All 3 of these are siblings. So they were all captured and all raised together like they would be in the wild. So we re-released them together where they were captured for their second chance at life. You may grab this one and then...
If we put Coy and them kind of stand to the right, and he'll go right up the road bed here.
Yeah.
Park Rangers Ryan and Greg don't want to traumatize the bears as they're being reintroduced.
He's right at the front, Ryan.
But they need to scare them into the woods to keep them afraid of people.
Go, bear. You're free. You're free. You're free. Go that way. That way. Come on. Come on. Yeah. Is he in the creek? You guys clap your hands at it.
Hey.
Which way to go?
The noises are meant to startle the bear,
Come on, bear. Come on, bear.
scaring it straight into the forest where it will hopefully stay.
Yeah, they're that fat, they don't want to really run very far. You know, you got to motivate them sometimes.
It's a big jump when you weigh 100 pounds and you're 2.5 feet tall.
The size of a bowling ball.
Moving on. Who's next?
Next bear. All right, bear. All right.
Hey.
Hey!
That's good.
2 of the bear cubs are now safely off into the forest, leaving just 1 more to be released.
Hang on, I'm letting this car pass.
Yeah, let this car go. Oh, he's creeping on us. He wants to know what we're doing.
With more park visitors lining up to watch, the rangers must quickly release the final cub before the crowd grows too large.
Don't let him come your way.
All right, everybody ready?
Don't pressure him, don't pressure him. There you go.
Don't go up in that tree. Go down the tree. Go down the tree. There's no electric fences here.
We're too scary. They're cubs. First thing they're gonna do when they're scared is climb to the very top of the tree like that one. And this bear came out right in front of some people, and he's currently still up there, and I can't leave him up there where he is in proximity to these people. Usually, when mother bear says there's danger near it, she will huff and send a signal, and they will run up to the top of a tree away from any predator. And she can also call them back down.
Since this cub was raised without a mother,
Everybody fall back.
the rangers will have to step in and bring the bear down themselves.
Let's get the bear out of the tree.
Park Rangers Ryan Williamson and Greg Greco released 2 of the 3 orphan bear cubs back into the wild without a glitch.
Don't go up in that tree.
Spooked by onlookers, the 3rd cub has climbed up a tree to safety.
Since he's up the tree, you guys move back. I can't leave him up there where he is in proximity to these people.
The longer he stays up in the tree, the closer it remains to the road and people.
This cub is obviously pretty stressed out, really scared.
The rangers need to coax the frightened cub down from the tree as quickly as possible.
All right, guys, I'm gonna ask you guys all to leave, please, so we can get this bear to come down from the tree. It's just really scared up there right now.
By moving park visitors away from the area, the rangers hope the bear will calm down and return to the ground.
Thank you.
But as the cub climbs higher, they change tactics.
Bang this bear out of this tree?
Yeah, let's get the bear out of the tree. So we're gonna try and launch these here bangers so that they explode above the bear in the tree, create like an impression of danger from above them, forces them down out of the tree. Yeah, our primer in there. Might almost be better from the other side. I don't know if we're gonna get enough range here.
Hey, you guys will need to hold your ears on these. These things are loud.
We'll get in good position here. You gotta judge your trajectory and angle, right? Should we get a little closer?
Send yours.
Yeah, this is about the most I've ever had to use to try and get a bear out of a tree. Usually it's like one or two and they're going, but she's pretty high also. I think she's thinking about it. Considering it, maybe. What was that?
Hang on, I'm letting this car pass. Make sure people's not parking in the road.
Yeah. Probably just tell his people to leave.
Hey guys, make sure there's a through lane.
The cub's not budging. And all the commotion is attracting more attention, so the Rangers try one more time.
All right, trying again. I got one left here. Come on. All right, there he goes, there he goes. Okay. Now run. There's all kinds of outcomes for any wild bear out here. That could involve starving to death in a year or 2 years from now. That could involve thriving, living to be 20, 25 years old and siring a bunch of cubs. You're good, bear, you're free. And we want these bears to have the same chance any other bear does when we turn it back loose in the park.
Thanks to the park rangers, all 3 bears now have a second chance at life.
Yeah, he's walking that way.
Yeah, it's good. He's going up there. All right, good. I love my job. I tell people all the time it's the best job in the world. I'd do it for free as long as I could eat and sleep, comfortably.
It's my job as a wildlife manager to be able to make sure that that public trust, the wildlife of America, is preserved for the next generation to see. So everybody's kids have the ability to see a bear in their backyard. That is a wrap.
A month after the controlled burn, life is starting to peek through the charred underbrush. Birds and other animals return to forage for nutrients in the cold late autumn. And the haunting fog that gave the park its name shrouds the land once more. Shakanohe, land of blue smoke, stands ready to embrace all who seek its beauty.
Opposite corners on the map. Different climates. Different oceans. These 2 national parks share one thing in common: water. Beyond the breaking surf, the coastline of Olympic National Park may look calm, but just offshore, trouble is brewing. It's a pod of killer whales. To survive in these frigid waters, an adult can burn 200,000 calories a day, which means orcas always need to hunt. With their keen senses, they know what's going on for miles around them. And they've set their sights on a nearby colony of stellar sea lions. Sea lions are safe while lounging on the rocks where they breed and raise their young. But in the water, they have to watch their backs. Their energy-rich blubber makes them desired prey. Too late, they sense the danger. Outswimming the whales is impossible. Being faster than a fellow sea lion is the only ticket to survival. But this gang of orcas rolls fast and furious. The largest warm-blooded apex predators in the oceans. Orcas are masters of the sneak attack. Before charging in for the kill, they thrash their victim senseless or toss him in the air until he weakens. A half-ton sea lion is no match for a 10-ton killer whale. But to get the job done takes teamwork. Drowning puts an end to the misery. Sea lions are always at risk for whale and shark attacks, but they too hunt their share of smaller prey along the park's 73 miles of pristine coastline. The thing about orcas is that they never hold back. And a successful hunt appears to be reason for a victory celebration. But these are transient orcas. Like teamsters on long-haul ocean runs, they've got to hit the road. They'll continue to troll the coast from Alaska to Southern California in search of the next meal. Water is Olympic National Park's lifeline. It's a home, a freeway, and a 24-hour diner for the creatures that thrive in its three diverse environments, from ocean to rainforest to mountaintop. The park's isolation by the sea keeps it wild and untraveled. But Olympic isn't the only national park where things can get wet and wild. At the southern end of Florida, the Everglades are never in a hurry. In some seasons, the sprawling river of grass flows as slowly as 50 feet a day. Its journey down the Florida peninsula weaves a tapestry of ecosystems found nowhere else in the world, with surprising tales of life and death at every turn. Finally, it creeps through the tangled mangroves to the sea, where one of the Everglades' most startling dramas is about to play out, transforming beloved creatures into cunning killers. Bottlenose dolphins are prowling Florida Bay, and they're up to no good. Like a gang of smiling thugs, they're here to terrorize the neighborhood. The leader scopes out the area for a hapless school of fish and begins to circle them, while the rest of the hooligans wait. Beating his tail against the silty bottom, he stirs up a spiral of gray mud, draws the net closed, and the gang turns as one. Panicked fish leap right into the dolphins' waiting jaws. Again and again, they cast their muddy nets. And school after school of fish go down their grinning gullets. Having had their fill, they head out of the area. These are the only dolphins who hunt this way, and they pass down their secrets from generation to generation. Everglades National Park protects only the southern 1/5 of the historic Everglades, but it's still 1.5 million acres. In the wet season, the Everglades ecosystem is a shallow river, 100 miles long and 50 miles wide. It's a river, a prairie, an ancient seabed, and a frustrated sheet of liquid fighting its way south through thousands of square miles of obstinate sawgrass. Basically, the Everglades can't make up its mind what it is, and the world is a better place for it. Because it provides endless homes for extraordinary appetites, like these unique groves of trees called cypress domes. These don't happen by accident. They're the signature of the original developer of waterfront real estate in the Everglades, the alligator. This big female doesn't just inhabit this crystal clear waterhole. She built this place, which was just a modest mud hole when she chose to put down roots and raise her first family here. She bulldozes when she needs to expand. She tends to her foundations and her clear water pool. Why? Because if you build it, they will come. Fish, that is. Yummy fish. With the dry season setting in, waterfront real estate is in huge demand, and all good things to eat will congregate here. Her investment will pay off handsomely. Her development is environmentally friendly, providing a lovely home for many of the Everglades creatures. She is the queen of all she surveys. But soon, she'll have to make a dangerous trek to make this place a true home. There's other inviting real estate in the drying Everglades, like these little teardrop islands that stay green year-round. These hardwood hammocks may only be a foot or two higher than the surrounding sawgrass, but that's enough to keep the trees above water. Inside the hammock lurks the thing that may actually kill off the Everglades. An interloper is bent on taking over the Everglades. The Burmese python is an illegal release from the pet trade, and these 20-foot monsters are literally eating their way through the park's mammals. Raccoons used to be common here, but not anymore. In the realm of the python, park scientists have logged a 99% decline in raccoon sightings. While the python is taking over the Everglades, it's business as usual in Olympic National Park. The river otters are aware that something's fishy. Chances are, it's mealtime. Otters are expert swimmers, gliding through water with webbed feet and powerful tails. And fish are a favorite food. But the coho haven't swum this far to become someone's dinner. Too slow to outrun a hunter, this 10-pound salmon will make a feast for the otter and his entire family. Otters have a high metabolism, so they have to eat almost a fifth of their weight every day to generate proper body heat. As long as there's enough food, they're at home in almost any water environment. When it's time to relax, otters aren't beyond busting a few quirky moves. This scent marking isn't a way of claiming territory as it is for many carnivores. It's just their way of telling others they're in the hood. But look to the sky, and Mount Olympus makes it clear this isn't just any old walk in the woods. The park is more than 4 times the size of New York City. Nearly 600 square miles of old-growth trees soak up more than 12 feet of rainfall each year. Plants and wildlife found nowhere else on Earth have made Olympic such an exceptional park that UNESCO designated it as a World Heritage Site. This is also the home of the world's largest unmanaged herds of Roosevelt elk. They're named after Teddy Roosevelt, the president who set aside this area as a national monument in 1909 to save the declining herds. Now they protect the rainforest by browsing on undergrowth, making room for new plants and animals. This half-ton bull isn't someone you want to butt heads with. 60 different species of mammals live in forests they help maintain. Even the smallest do their part. When a squirrel eats a fir cone, it scatters seeds. It's one way new generations of Douglas fir or Sitka spruce get their start. The cycles of new and old growth keep this forest healthy. So do Olympic's vast networks of fresh water. And its protected status keeps it safe from commercial clear-cutting, the timber harvesting that wiped out much of the old-growth forest beyond the park. Back on the coast, it's nesting season for America's national symbol, the bald eagle. And for this new father, life has suddenly gotten busy. Adult eagles don't have to eat every day, but their young do. Protected by his mother and well-fed, the eaglet can gain more than a pound every 4 days. The chick is only a few days old, doing what all babies do best: eat and eliminate. Being a good provider takes a sharp eye to spot the prey, and the skills of a fighter pilot to snare it. Today, that may mean a showdown with a rival hunter. A true opportunist, the eagle takes advantage of a raft of sea lions stirring up supper. It's herring season on the Olympic Peninsula, a free-for-all for anyone who swims or flies. A scavenger like a bald eagle probably won't attack live sea lions, but he won't hesitate to steal their food if he can. The sea lions team up for an assault, while the fish do their best to leap out of harm's way. It's time for the eagle to seize the moment. With a quick swipe of the talons, he collects his catch. A lucky break, because it's been estimated that eagles snare prey only once every 18 tries. Guarded with tinted wings, the snack will have to pacify the greedy chick for now. Harsh winds and strong Pacific currents constantly shape the Olympic National Park's dramatic landscape, creating spectacular formations like Point of the Arches, this 73-mile-long stretch of wilderness is one of the longest undeveloped coastlines in the lower 48. Most visitors experience only a fraction of the park's secret life. And the park on the opposite corner of the U.S. has some secrets of its own. In Everglades National Park, a shy handful of endangered cats make their last stand. Even camera traps left out for months seldom capture more than a fleeting glimpse of the Florida panther. Once a top predator across the southeast, they were nearly wiped out by hunting and habitat loss. By the 1960s, there were so few left in the wild that inbreeding seemed to spell doom. So Texas cougars were released in South Florida to add to the gene pool. Now their numbers are up to 160. But park rangers fear the giant pythons could even kill these big, beautiful cats. In winter, the water level on the Sawgrass Prairie drops fast. This is when the Everglades burst into full flower, with a profusion of daisies down at water level. As the water table drops, the alligator's waterfront becomes hot property. And the fish that have flourished here are about to pay a high price. American white ibises flock to the dwindling pond, knowing that the residents are now overcrowded and have no escape. For the female alligator, life is good, for now. By late April, much of the Everglades has dried out. Clouds pass uselessly overhead, yielding not a drop. Finally, all that's left of the river of grass is a muddy plain. In the driest years, even the alligator holes evaporate. With her prime real estate in crisis, she must leave home in search of water. It's a dangerous journey that will take her across unfamiliar territory. This is the downside of being a cold-blooded reptile. Just as she needs the sunshine to stay active, too much sun will bake her alive. Desperate, she hunkers down in the mud to find whatever shade and moisture she can. But to remain here would mean death. She's got to keep moving and find water. It won't be easy. It's become a bit crowded in the best South Florida neighborhoods. But the fish on the menu who have sought refuge here makes it all worth it. For the exceptionally clever alligator, there may be a rare and very special item on the menu. It's breeding time for the egrets. The birds are so tantalizingly close, the alligators can practically taste them. The egrets are busy nest building and quite picky about their construction materials. Somehow, the occasional alligator can be seen floating around, balancing a stick perfectly on its nose. Is it just coincidence? Or is this 400-pound reptile with a brain the size of a walnut a master of deception? The egret apparently has eyes only for the stick. And the alligator has snagged the chef's special. If this neighborhood is the alligator equivalent of Miami, this section of the neighborhood is a South Beach nightclub, a place to see and be seen. Alligators can't dance, so they make the water dance for them. The male's underwater mating call, too low for humans to hear, sets off quite the cha-cha on his back. But the place is jam-packed, the testosterone is high, and the males will rumble. When two bull alligators decide this place isn't big enough for both of them, it's really not wise to try to break them up. The smaller male that got between them gets the beating they intended for each other. When they've all shown off what big men they are, they'll turn back to the ladies. But the real bigwigs here, the ones with power and influence, head to exclusive back rooms. The canals lead to private areas where a big male can set up his seduction scene in peace without even leaving the building. This will do nicely. a great blue heron quickly gets out of the way. But he'll hover like a nervous, simpering maitre d', waiting for tips. A female has followed Mr. Big into the privacy of the back area. And the dance of mutual seduction begins. The maitre d' keeps an eye out. You never know what alligators will scare out of the water. The lovers will circle and stroke each other in a ritual that can go on for days. Then slip under the surface to culminate the act. A tip. It looks like the heron's patience is rewarded. Or maybe not. Mr. Big does not appreciate the service. And the best maitre d' here is one snap from being the dessert. Our female South Beach hunk has gotten what he came for, but so has she. As soon as the rains release her, she'll head back to near her cypress dome to start her family and face the nightmare that's killing the park. Just offshore at Olympic National Park, the shallow coastal waters are a refuge for marine mammals like sea lions that hang out on the rocks or hunt beneath the sea, here in their own enchanted forest. The kelp beds are several stories deep. There are seals, and the animal you might call the keeper of the kelp beds, the sea otter. They prey on clams, abalone, and sea urchins. Without them, small undersea life would overgraze, destroying the kelp forests that feed and protect marine mammals. It's rare to see a mother and pup with a male escort. Males are often a threat to the pair and might even keep the pup hostage until the female surrenders her food. For many years, being an otter was risky business. They have the densest fur of any mammal. By the early 1900s, they'd been hunted to extinction here on the Olympic coast, and only a few thousand existed worldwide. Sea otters were reintroduced to the region in 1969. They're still endangered, but rebounding thanks to recovery efforts. Today, nearly 1,000 otters are getting by here, with a little help from their friends. Gray whales were also hit hard by overharvesting, but now they're back in force. As the seasons change, they lead their calves north from Mexico to feeding grounds in the Bering Sea. The calves are only 3 months old and already marathon swimmers in one of the world's longest known mammal migrations. It's more than 10,000 miles to their destination, a perilous trip, even for the adults. There are killers on the loose, transient orcas, the only enemies smart and strong enough to turn a gray whale's journey into a nightmare. And they're closing in on the pod. Orcas stalk their prey to exhaustion in high-speed, long-distance chases. They can easily wear out an adult gray whale, much less a young calf. As they close in, the mother thrusts her powerful tail at the orcas, trying in vain to drive them away. Can a lone female really outmaneuver the group of killer whales? Wrapping a protective fin around her calf, she tries one last time to shield him. But the orcas ram his flanks. Using their weight, they force him deeper and hold him till he drowns. The calf didn't stand a chance. The mother gray fought hard. Now, saving herself is the only option. From May to October, nearly every afternoon brings rain to the Everglades. Sea breezes from the Caribbean and the Atlantic blow in over the flat terrain of South Florida. They combine with the heat and humidity to spawn powerful storms. And with those storms comes lightning. A lot of lightning. In fact, there's more lightning in Florida than any place else in the country. A good-sized storm here can produce 25 cloud-to-ground strikes in the space of 10 minutes. All that lightning can have a huge impact on the landscape, turning the river of grass into a terrifying river of fire. Fire in the Everglades used to spark an all-out war against nature's most terrifying rage. But now, scientists understand how important fire is to the park's ecosystems. Wildfires help renew the sawgrass prairie by burning off old vegetation while the roots stay wet. Fortunately for this female alligator, the fire is bypassing her home. And if the smoke gets too thick, she can always retreat underwater to wait it out. The park's trees are prone to fire too, especially endangered pine rocklands. The resident eastern diamondback rattlesnake isn't afraid of much, but when his home catches fire, it's best to head for safety, preferably underground. Fire is crucial to the health of the pineland. It clears away the undergrowth and keeps alien plant species from taking over, while the trees survive and their seeds open in the heat. Once the blaze burns itself out, the landscape may look devastated, but the Everglades and its wildlife have evolved to tolerate the purifying power of fire. Within days, new growth appears. the tree islands came through mostly unscathed. On some high ground, not far from the Cypress Dome, a pile of vegetation hides little treasures. The female alligator built this incubator for her eggs. 40 of them, or even more. For the next 2 months, she'll stand guard against scavengers and wait for the eggs to hatch. Early October in Olympic National Park, the first major storms signal that autumn is here. It's the season when the peninsula's normally turbulent seas pound the Olympic coastline with extra fury. But even in such brutal conditions, nature adapts. And there's a method to her madness. In the storm's wake, the Strait of Juan de Fuca enjoys a little calm, and a gift sent in on the tide for the area's resident orcas: salmon. So today, they're going fishing. Unlike the transient orcas, residents don't hunt or eat marine mammals, just fish. They're following the autumn migration of Chinook, or king salmon, to freshwater spawning grounds. The leader of this pod is a matriarch, thought to be more than 100 years old. The salmon are heading for the park's coastal rivers. That is, if they can end run a pod of whales with huge appetites and a system. The orcas work together using hunting techniques passed down over generations. They coordinate the attack with high-pitched vocalizations and stun the fish with tail flukes before pouncing on their movable feast. It's a good day to be a resident. And like their transient cousins, they too seem to celebrate their success. But each group's specialized feeding habits may be the reason that they don't clash over prey. Not far from her dome, the female alligator is now a new mom and is improving the real estate. She excavates a nice nursery where her toddlers will be able to play safely, protected from big hungry fish or adult alligators. While she works, they're happy to spend their time basking. Alligators are caring mothers and vigilant. She's alert to anything that may put her young in danger. And she senses a threat right now. A Burmese python has made its way into the pond. The alien invader is stalking her young. Big pythons can easily catch and kill a little alligator. But not if this mom can help it. It's a clash of reptilian titans. With the outcome uncertain. But finally, the gator prevails. The babies are a bit cowed by the commotion. But one intrepid youngster can't resist venturing out on her own. She checks in with Mom, then goes on the prowl. Clearly, she needs to work on her technique and her aim. But success is sweet, and she'll get the hang of it eventually. Someday, she may rule over a cypress dome just like her mother. Queen of her part of alligator heaven. Olympic and Everglades National Parks are true examples of water worlds with diverse and vital ecosystems. Each park adapting and thriving in its own way.
Years ago, a group of conservationists did an extraordinary thing. Starting with Yellowstone National Park, they pioneered the protection of millions of acres of federal lands. It would be the crucible for a plan to save the animals of the American West. At the time, they were all but gone, hunted and trapped nearly to extinction. From 30 million bison, fewer than 1,000 remained. 50,000 grizzly bears were reduced to fewer than 1,000. Of the wolves, who had numbered around 1 million, about 700,000 were killed in less than a decade. A century and a half later, there are 63 official national parks and over 400 park sites. Almost 300 million people visit the parks each year. They're home to hundreds of threatened and endangered species. This amazing array of animals populates the parks and controls population growth. They shape the wild spaces to encourage life and give visitors a portal into America's wild past. It is the animals who are the wild, beating heart of America's national parks. Time to get to know them. In the American West, 3 iconic mountain states, Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho, all share a corner of the first national park, Yellowstone. It was explorers, and especially artists, awed by the area's beauty, who inspired the United States Congress to protect it from settlement or sale. In an era of westward expansion, it was remarkable that on March 1st, 1872, they declared this land too valuable in natural wonders to develop for profit. This rugged region is stunning. in a way that's both threatening and inviting. Here in the mountains of western Montana, where few tourists venture to see them, animals must be tough to survive, especially in winter. And they face other threats. Despite the protections of a national park, bounty hunters continue to target gray wolves with a vengeance. By the late 1970s, they'd almost disappeared from Yellowstone. But once they were added to the endangered species list, they became one of America's greatest and most controversial wildlife success stories. Gray wolves were reintroduced to Yellowstone in 1995. They did so well, they were downgraded to a threatened species. But sadly, they remain in the crosshairs. Wolf hunting and trapping still kill hundreds of wolves each year, many just over Yellowstone's border. The delicate balance of Yellowstone rests on the scruffs of these tiny pups' necks. They're less than 2 weeks old. Only about half will make it to adulthood. Their eyes are just opened, still blue, not yet the familiar wolf yellow. These youngsters must put on 2 or 3 pounds a week. That takes a lot of food. By the time the pups are around a month old, they'll gnaw on almost anything. But their diet increasingly comes from the meat the adults catch. Even at this age, they act wolfish. Practice makes perfect. Already they're battling for dominance. This play fighting will help decide who takes over as the next pack leader. In a couple of months, they'll be ready to hunt with the big dogs in a much harder time of year. This is the dark wolf's first winter as leader. Her mate was killed. Now, she's in charge. The pack is young. Dark Wolf must teach them how to hunt as a team, or they won't live through winter. Their first lesson, how to take down an elk, 5 times their size. The wolves' only chance is to work together. But the pack doesn't keep up. One good kick could crush her skull. Hunting big game alone is futile. She must teach the pack to work together, or they won't last. In winter, every calorie counts. The dark wolf keeps her family on the move. 30 miles and counting. And still no big meals. The younger wolves have much to learn. They spend most days just searching for a whiff of prey. A wolf's nose is 100 times more sensitive than a human's. The faintest scent tells them who was here and when. The dark wolf picks up a promising trail. She and her pack haven't eaten in days. But they have a new target, a yearling elk. The dark wolf drives the elk into deeper snow where she'll have the advantage. The others now know what to do. They chose well. The yearling is tiring. At last, the pack has learned how to hunt together. With this kill, they've used Yellowstone's savage winter as their ally. And with their success, all of Yellowstone will triumph. Since wolves returned over 25 years ago, the elk overpopulation that once threatened the park's vegetation is under control. The trees have rebounded, sustaining other species. Creating natural balance is one role of a keystone species like the wolf. But these are familiar Western predators. In a national park to the south lives the unexpected. A wolf in mouse clothing. In the southwestern United States, in southwestern Utah, are Zion and Bryce Canyon National Parks. About an hour and a half apart, they're close enough to visit both in one day. But their landscapes and stories are very different. Zion was officially designated a national park in 1919. Its name came from Mormon settlers who used the word to mean a place of spiritual sanctuary. Zion is a craggy wonderland of slot canyons, hanging gardens, and waterfalls. Cottonwood trees and pines speckle the landscape, offering a precious bit of shade in a desert that can reach 100 degrees Fahrenheit in the summer. Bryce Canyon was established in 1923 to preserve its beauty and scientific importance, and also to stop the damage done by logging and overgrazing. Bryce is in the high desert, 10 or 20 degrees cooler than Zion. It isn't technically a canyon, but landscapes of distinctly eroded cliffs and mazes of hoodoos, dazzling rock spires. It feels like the Old West, with crimson-colored peaks stretching out from tall ponderosa pine forests. It's one of the smallest national parks, but like one of its tiniest residents, it's not to be ignored. This is a grasshopper mouse inside her den. She's a single mother with 3 new mouths to feed and protect. To a desert scorpion, a little rodent seems like easy prey. But he's misjudged. This mighty mouse is impervious to the scorpion's venom. She's the predator, not the prey. The mouse's ghostly howl haunts these Utah national parks at night. Here in the desert, you either kill or get killed. Survival is job number 1. How the animals accomplish that takes many surprising forms. In central Arizona, just 60 miles from the city of Phoenix, is Sonoran Desert National Monument, founded in 1966. The Sonoran Desert has more life than any desert in North America. Surprising, since it gets less than 3 inches of rain a year. And temps can reach 114 degrees Fahrenheit. A person likely wouldn't last 3 days without water in these conditions. But saguaro cactus can go without water for years. Found nowhere else, each one can soak up as much as 200 gallons from a single rain. Desert animals have to be even more resourceful. One of the Sonoran's most famous birds uses speed to survive. The roadrunner is the fastest bird in North America. On the ground. Extreme bursts of energy propel her up to 20 miles per hour. She has no fear of one of the most dangerous creatures in the Sonoran. The western diamondback rattlesnake. Its venom can kill a person. But she's got a plan. She's quicker than the snake. Once she gets a hold of its head, she cracks it like a whip against the rocks to finish it off. Then eats it, rattle and all. No wonder Wile E. Coyote never had any luck. Actually, she sounds like this. No question, the national parks are home to a remarkable diversity of life. America's national parks aren't limited to the lower 48. Located in southeast Alaska, Glacier Bay National Park encompasses some of America's most breathtaking scenery and wilderness. About the size of Connecticut, it's one of the largest protected areas in the world. It became a national park in 1980. Today, it's both a land park with snow-capped mountains, spectacular glaciers, and emerald green forests, and a marine park with inlets, coves, and hidden harbors. Glacier Bay is also a humpback whale sanctuary, providing some of the strongest safeguards on the planet. Other than occasional run-ins with boats, the whales are safe here. But humans haven't always been their friends. Humpbacks live in all of the world's oceans and have been hunted nearly to extinction. By the mid-1960s, centuries of commercial whaling had left only about 1,000. Protections and a moratorium on whaling helped them rebound worldwide. Today, there are more than 21,000. They spend the summer here in Glacier Bay for one reason: food. They gorge on the small schooling fish who concentrate in these cold, nutrient-rich waters. Feeding almost constantly, a single humpback can consume nearly a half-ton of food daily. At the end of the summer, huge pods travel almost 100 miles a day without food to the next stop in their migration. One of the longest of any mammal in the world. Their destination is 3,000 miles away in the Hawaiian Islands. Another humpback whale marine sanctuary, designated in the 1990s. More than half of the humpbacks in the North Pacific use the waters around the Hawaiian Islands as their principal breeding and calving ground in winter. Past Hawaii's reefs, past her sandy shoals, are her deep water channels. This is where the ocean makes room for the largest of her sea creatures. This whale cow has come here to Hawaii to mate, give birth, and raise her calf. A mother delivers her newborn alive and swimming. A humpback calf is a whale of a baby. He's 15 feet long and weighs a ton. Mom is 40 by 40, feet to tons, that is. Her calf learns by playing. And he plays through imitation. His first leap is a sign. He'll be on his own within a year. But the pair isn't alone. An escort shadows them. A male who's prepared to fight to the death for his chance to mate. Up to 20 other males straggle alongside, waiting to challenge the escort in confrontations that get violent. They parry with a show of aggression, blowing a blinding screen of bubbles. Slapping tails and snapping fins. Warning shots over each other's bows. Time for a knockout punch. A 40-ton ramming that can kill. The victor emerges with his reward, the chance to maintain his lineage. Every calf is a bid for the future, hard won. It's this calf's first journey north. Learning the ropes from mom as he goes. Their first stop on their way back to Alaska? California's Channel Islands National Park, off the coast of Los Angeles. The park is comprised of 5 islands and the surrounding mile of ocean. It took determined landowners and federal officials 4 long decades to protect it. Today, the waters are rich with wildlife. Like these anchovies, the humpbacks have come to snack on. On this trip, the calf will learn the path to summer feeding grounds in Alaska. A roadmap he'll remember for life. He and Mom take in the coastal scenery as they go. There's plenty for whales and other visitors to gape at. At Channel Islands National Park in California, established in 1979, sea otters were once top predators. After years of heavy hunting, they're only beginning to visit again. This water-loving weasel with massive webbed toes is clumsy on land, but graceful when he finds his sea legs. And a whole bunch of friends. Almost every moment of their lives is spent afloat. Some sleep in a prayerful pose. For others, it's wakey-wakey. Time for a morning scrub. Otters are the heaviest members of the weasel family. They're uniquely adapted to life around water. They use their tails for balance as a rudder. They can open and close their small ears for diving. And they have the densest fur in the animal kingdom, like a full-body life jacket. 800 million hairs trap air close to their skin and keep out the icy ocean. Pups are born in the water. They can't swim until they reach 2 weeks old. Mom uses her stomach as a furry life raft. But every parent needs a little me time, and Mom's got just the solution. She fills the pup's dense fur with air, like blowing up a pool float. Now, this kid will float for hours. She swims off to find a meal. Hunting is essential for a young mother. She's on a high-calorie diet, eating up to 30% of her body weight each day. A large innkeeper worm makes a perfect starter. For another female, the catch of the day is clam, freshly cracked and served raw. Her pup is a little older and can swim. He's not happy Mom has a table for one. He'll depend on her until he can wrangle his own dinner. Until then, this mama's boy will keep living at home. From oceanfront property in California to a riverbank refuge clear across the country, our national parks are prime real estate for animals. With so many spectacular parks in the western United States, it's easy to miss the stunning vistas in the east. Near Bar Harbor, Maine, Acadia National Park has been called the crown jewel of the North Atlantic coast. It got its name in 1929. And many of the people who donated tracts of land for its creation were women philanthropists. With its brilliant fall foliage, it's one of the 10 most visited parks in the country. Acadia's rugged, rocky coastline was formed by glaciers and coastal erosion over hundreds of millions of years. But its lakes, ponds, and rivers are designed by a different ecosystem engineer. North American beavers work constantly to create new wetlands by building dams and lodges. As a keystone species, their construction projects help sculpt the land and waterways. To early European explorers who arrived in North America in the 1600s, the beaver population seemed limitless, estimated at up to 100 million. Fur traders trapped beavers almost to extinction within 200 years. Beavers were gradually reintroduced, but many areas can still use a few more. The devoted parents who live here are doing their best to remedy that situation. Inside the Beaver's Lodge are 4 young kits. Each one eats its weight every week. So Mom and Dad, who'll stay together for life, work as a team to stockpile 6 months of sticks, or their kits will starve. With winter coming, there's no time to lose. It takes nearly 100 trees to feed the family through winter. That's a ton of bark, leaves, wood, and twigs. The icy water keeps their produce fresh for months. As every dad knows, the honey-do list never ends. It's his turn to work the night shift. He needs one more tree to shore up the lodge. Evenings are a cool but spooky time to get things done. He must work quickly. Dangerous things go bump in the night. Coast is clear. Finally, timber. This tree has enough branches to finish the job. Dad still wants to keep out the draft, so he seals any holes with mud. Mud, moss, and sticks all make perfect insulation. A well-made lodge can be 100 degrees warmer inside than out. And it's ready just in time. "3,000 miles to the west, a pair of national parks protects a species that uses trees for a different purpose." Pacific Northwest, in Northern California, are 2 national parks, Muir Woods National Monument and Redwood National and State Parks. Their stories, like their trees, tower over the landscape. Near San Francisco, Muir Woods is a primeval forest along the Pacific coast. It was dedicated to the father of the national parks, John Muir, in 1908, created to protect the redwood trees from a logging boom. Established 60 years later, but for the same reason, Redwood National and State Parks are 350 miles to the north, almost at the Oregon border. They protect nearly half the world's old-growth redwoods. These are the tallest trees on Earth. Nearly 40 stories high and 60 feet around. The bark alone can be a foot thick. The oldest was a sapling when Julius Caesar ruled Rome. A few are 5 stories taller than the Statue of Liberty. Making their home in these natural skyscrapers is a spotted owl family. Dad is trying to raise his little ones alone. This chick wants breakfast. The louder owlet gets the mouse. The quieter brother goes hungry. Only if their old man can hunt down enough varmints will both owlets survive. Working alone, it won't be easy. The owlet's screeches trigger their father to hunt. He must catch around 15 mice a day to keep everyone fed. The mice do their best to foil his efforts. Dark fur helps this deer mouse hide. Its ears are big, to listen for danger. That doesn't help with a silent killer. The owl's flight feathers are so lightweight, they're see-through. Fringed edges let air pass, diffusing the flapping noise other birds make. He's silent as death. The mouse never knew what hit him. Even just 1/30th of a second before the talons strike, the mouse still doesn't have a clue. Finally, the second youngster gets a meal. The hungry family is fed for another day. Hunger is only one threat these owls face. Since the 1980s, their cousins, the northern spotted owls, have been the face of a legal battle between the logging industry and conservationists. Timber interests wanted to log huge swaths of the old-growth forests where the owls live and replant them with fast-growing young trees. To stop them, environmentalists argued this would compromise the owls. listed as threatened under the Endangered Species Act. Some forests have been saved, but after 30 years, a long-term truce in the timber wars is still pending. Finding ways people and wildlife can live in harmony has been a goal and a challenge of America's national parks. When there's balance, it gives us a window into a wild world where animals amaze us just by living their daily lives. We celebrate their triumphs and treasure the insights into their secret world. Living wild in our national parks.